to those who have subscribed. We really give thanks. We just reached 100 subscribers. Please share our videos with a friend of yours or family members. I know people need something to watch right now, but Ethiopia has just declared a national emergency, and we're here to talk to you about it and give you some insight on it while we're here on the ground at Addis Ababa.
Okay, so Al Jazeera, y'all already know, it's like a well-known news broadcast. It says Ethiopia declares state of emergency to fight coronavirus, and I'm just gonna read you some of this stuff. We'll put like the link to this article down there, and then after I read you some of this stuff, we'll talk about like what we're feeling and stuff. So pretty much Ethiopia has 55 confirmed cases and 2 deaths to date, but the country has 110 million people, so that's pretty small. The Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said in a statement, because the coronavirus is getting worse, the Ethiopian government has decided to declare a state of emergency under Article 93 of the Constitution. I call upon everybody to stand in line with government bodies and others that are trying to overcome this problem. He added warning of grave legal measures, which I don't know what that means, against anyone who undermines the fight against this pandemic.
Exactly. We don't know what that means.
It was not immediately clear how the state of emergency would affect day-to-day life in Ethiopia. Authorities have already taken a series of measures to stem the spread of the virus, including closing schools, banning public gatherings, that did not happen, and requiring most employees to work from home. That also did not happen. Schools are definitely closed.
Yeah, schools is closed, yeah.
The government has so far refrained from imposing a lockdown similar to those in effect elsewhere in the region, including Rwanda, Uganda, and Mauritius. William Davidson, a senior Ethiopian analyst for the International Crisis Group, said there is quite a lot of uncertainty about the extent to which the coronavirus may have spread so far in Ethiopia, which you guys can check out our other video about what we think about. Actually, no, you can go to our Patreon, right? About like the spread of coronavirus in Ethiopia.
You'll find it somewhere.
Okay. So it says not too much testing has been done, but the government has steadily increased that, accrediting other laboratories to do so. But certainly there's not been a huge amount of testing that's going on. Maybe that's partly why there's not a huge amount of infections. I agree with that. And not everybody is going to run to the doctor.
Yes.
They're talking about Abiy winning a Nobel Peace Prize. So it says, according to the country's constitution, under a state of emergency, the Council of Ministers has all necessary power to protect the country's peace and sovereignty and can suspend some political and democratic rights. I don't know what that means. The Constitution also says that legislators need to approve a state of emergency, which can last for 6 months and be extended every 4 months after that. One of the things that the state of emergency does is to give the federal government more authority and ability to work in coordination with regional governments, including their security apparatus. So since they had their first coronavirus case reported on March 13th, they closed land borders and school, they freed a bunch of prisoners, they sprayed the main streets with disinfectant, and discouraged large gatherings, which we have seen, like they closed down the streets and stuff.
Yeah, and the tourism.
Yeah, and then it says, Abiy said over the weekend that a harsher lockdown would be unrealistic given that there are many citizens who don't have homes, and even those who have homes have to make ends meet daily, which is true, and that's what my other video was alluding to. Like, I don't understand how like social distancing or even a lockdown could even happen in an African country, because every day like people are out here like making what they need for that day, so it's like unrealistic.
Social distance is a Western thing, and
I agree with Abiy. I'm glad that he is realistic with like that a lockdown like really honestly couldn't happen, because that would cause more suffering to his people.
Yes.
It says officials have been saying that the country is too poor to stop population movement, so why do you need a state of emergency if you're not planning to impose stricter rules? This is Jawar Mohammed, a leading opposition politician, who questioned Abiy's declaration, saying this called into question why a state of emergency was necessary, which is true. I agree with that. If it's too... If
you're not gonna... Why are you doing it?
Yeah, why are we doing the state of emergency? And it says...
I like your Abiy.
During consultations with Abiy earlier this week, the opposing Oromo Liberation Front voiced worries that the state of emergency would lead to human rights abuses a well-documented problem under previous states of emergency imposed during several years of anti-government protests that swept Ahmed to power. Abiy. We explained our concern that the state of emergency has been initiated several times and it has been abused to violate the rights of citizens and other political activists. It's also unclear how the state of emergency might affect planning for hotly anticipated general elections in Ethiopia. So that's another thing too, like the election was supposed to happen either this month or next month.
In September, but they pushed it back. It's supposed to happen in 4 months, but they pushed it back till next year.
Yeah, so like I guess according to one of the local people that lives here, they told us that normally during election time, there's a lot of like civil unrest, a lot of people get killed, stuff like that.
Outside of Addis.
So to conclude all of this, Addis Ababa is normally like a safe zone because there's a lot of international and government stuff that happens here. There's a lot of tourists, so Addis is normally like not really affected, I guess, by the state of emergencies, according to someone who has seen state of emergencies in the past. So we're not thinking that really anything's gonna happen here. Probably outside of Addis, there's going to be like maybe in like the regions that border the other countries like Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, Eritrea. There's probably going to be stuff going on around there when it comes to the state of emergency. But us, we don't really think that like anything's gonna go down here.
And we'd rather be here than America.
Honestly, I think that's the biggest thing. Is like even though there's a state of emergency here, there's a state of emergency in America, and it has over 400,000 cases. So I don't know.
And Ethiopia had a state of emergency in 2016.
I have no idea.
Yeah, they had one previously, and according to TripAdvisor, a lot of the foreigners, I just read the thumbnails and read the different comments and stuff, and all the foreigners were saying it's never really nothing happening here in Addis. You could still fly to wherever you want to. It's more so outside of Addis, and your mobile phone your internet may not work or not.
Yeah.
So those are minor things. That's 2016. I know it's 2020, but this is not an election going on. That was for different reasons.
Yeah, but I think that's the only thing we have to worry about right now is like not being able to get on the internet because the government controls the internet here, and in previous state of emergencies, as you said, they'll shut it down. But also in other things, they've shut it down. So I don't know. Like we'll see. We're gonna see what happens, but we'll keep you guys in the loop. For now, we just wanted to get that news out there.